Okay, so that was Norwegian Wood by the Beatles. And if you didn't recognize that, you might have a bad taste in music. Okay, maybe you didn't recognize that, but you might recognize this Norwegian Wood by Haruki Murakami. What a book. No, but seriously, listen to the song, please. And this is one of the most popular Japanese books of all time. Like, when people think of Murakami, I'm pretty sure this is the book they think of. Or Kafka on the Shore, but I would say this one's more popular. And it's one of those books that people either love or hate. And I loved it. So I read this book like 5 or 6 years ago, and it was my first Murakami novel. And the only reason I read it was because of the title. Because, as you know, I'm a big Beatles fan. Even got a Paul McCartney shirt on, so yeah, that's that. And now coming back to it years later, after having read so many other Murakami novels, I would say this is the most memorable one for me. Like, not just because of the story, but the feeling it leaves you with. Even though it's the most normal one, like out of all his other novels I've read, this is the most normal one, and if you've read his books, I think you'll know what I mean. Okay, so Norwegian Wood is basically a coming-of-age story that is set in 1960s Japan. And the story follows this guy named Toru Watanabe, who is a university student. And it starts with him hearing the song Norwegian Wood years later while he's on a flight, and it sends him spiraling back into his memories of his youth. And these memories mainly center around two people, Naoko and Midori. So Naoko was the girlfriend of Toru's best friend Kizuki, who passed away when they were younger. And because of that, Toru and Naoko share this long history, and it's tied to that grief and things left unresolved. Midori, on the other hand, comes into his later life during university, and that feels completely different. Like, she's very different to Naoko as a person. She's quite unpredictable, she's very outspoken and quite in the moment, quite in the present. So the story pretty much stays focused on Toru having to navigate these relationships while he's moving through his university years. And there's no big plot driving the story forward. The emphasis is on how these people and experiences shape Toru during that stage of life. Okay, so moving on to the themes. Norwegian Wood deals with a lot of heavy stuff. So you got things like grief, you got loneliness, mental health, and there's this constant tension between holding on to the past and trying to move forward. And I would say grief is the most prominent one throughout the whole story. So after Toru's best friend takes his own life, Naoko gets completely stuck. She ends up living this quiet, secluded life from everything and everyone else. And even though she tries to explain her situation in letters that she sends to Toru, she's never able to fully put it into words. It's like she's completely frozen in time emotionally. And Toru isn't that different either, he just responds in the opposite way. Instead of stopping, he keeps moving forward, but in that process he detaches himself from everything and everyone else and just mindlessly exists. He can't form pure connections, he can't commit to anything. It's like he's quite afraid of sitting down and, looking at what happened. And he feels really emotionally disconnected from everyone. And you can kind of see that play out in the way he moves between Naoko and Midori. Naoko here, I guess, represents the past that he's holding on to, he's clinging on to. And Midori, on the other hand, represents the possibility of future, the possibility of being able to move on and live a normal life. So one of the things that I really liked about this book is how realistic Toru is as a character. Like, he's passive, he's emotionally distant and unsure of what he wants. And Murakami doesn't really try to turn that into something heroic or noble, He is just presented as someone in his 20s who doesn't know how to deal with grief, who doesn't know how to navigate relationships. And I think that is an accurate depiction of what a lot of people in their 20s go through. So yeah, I think Toru as a character is written really well. I also really like the atmosphere of the book. The setting is so nice. It's simple and very realistic. And after I finished reading Norwegian Wood, I really wanted to travel to Japan. Like that is where my obsession, let's just say, with Japan began. It was this book right here. Thank you, Murakami. Thank you, sir. But something that I didn't like about this book was how some of the female characters are written. And if you've read his other novels, like you know what I mean. Like there's like this pattern you can see throughout his books. Like here, the female characters feel very underdeveloped compared to Toru. They feel more like ideas rather than, humans. And there's also this problem of, women being sexualized heavily in his books. And as I said, yeah, this is like something that you see in his books quite a lot. The pacing can feel a little slow as well, especially in the middle part where he gets a bit repetitive. So yeah, those are the things that I didn't really like about the book, but overall I would say Norwegian Wood is a book I'm glad I read and revisited again. Like it can feel slow and it's emotionally heavy and it's definitely not for everyone, but I think it captures a part of life that feels so real and raw and honest. And for people wanting to get into Murakami, I would say Norwegian Wood is probably the best place to start. Some people do say Kafka on the Shore, but I would say start with this. I would say this is an easier read. Kafka on the Shore is a little bit, that's pretty weird actually, yeah, it's really weird. But yeah, start with this one. Like, I'm not sure if it's my favorite Murakami novel, but I would say that it's the one that stayed with me the most. Like, it's the most memorable one. And yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars. I really like the book. And yeah, if you've read the book, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it as well. So yeah, this is my take on Haruki Murakami's Norwegian Wood. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. And yeah, just please listen to the song. It's really good.